What do you get when you combine Pokemon, Animal Crossing, and a little bit of Minecraft? Nope, not that game. This is Pokopia, a cozy new life simulation Pokemon spin-off coming to Nintendo Switch 2 early next year. It was originally revealed in a Nintendo Direct about 2 months ago, but just yesterday we got a 10-minute trailer showing off a lot more of it, so this is everything you need to know about Pokopia. First off, a bit of information about the release. It'll be coming out exclusively for the Switch 2 on March 5th, 2026, which is actually a lot sooner than I expected. Pokopia seems to be a partnership between Game Freak and Koei Tecmo, but the main developers seem to be Koei Tecmo's Omega Force division, best known for making the Dynasty Warriors games and more recently Dragon Quest Builders 2, a game that may or may not have inspired Nintendo to hire them for this project. But without a doubt, the most talked about aspect of this game is the fact that Pokopia will be the first Nintendo game that utilizes their revolutionary new game keycards. This may look like any old Nintendo Switch cartridge on the outside, but on the inside, it doesn't actually contain any game data. Which means for Pokopia, you'll have to download 10 gigabytes onto your system storage or SD card, even if you buy this physical version. Thankfully, once downloaded, you can play the game offline, so internet's only required on first installation. But I really don't understand why they're doing this. I mean, Nintendo Switch 2 cartridges can hold up to 64 gigabytes on them, and I don't know if they really save money, considering they're still having to print the cartridge, box art, and all that plastic. I mean, just feels like a waste to me. So even though you're buying a physical version, you don't actually own your game, which really sucks. But besides the controversy with its physical release, you're probably wondering, what the heck is Pokopia anyway? Well, to put it simply, it's Pokemon finally deciding to dip their toes fully into that cozy gaming niche that's been getting ever more popular. Some might even say too popular nowadays. I think Pokemon are definitely a little late to this wave, but having the Pokemon name attached to it means Pokopia will absolutely sell like crazy. The website describes it as a game where you can savor the slow life and relax in your very own paradise with Pokemon and friends. There's crafting, building, gardening, and of course tons of Pokemon to befriend and live with in this blocky world. And like many other similar games in the genre, the further you progress, the more freedom you get to fully rebuild this abandoned wasteland into your own paradise. There's the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and Pokopia certainly looks to keep many of the aspects that make these types of games so appealing. But you have to wonder, what exactly makes this game stand out? Well, for one, I think the premise is quite interesting, as it appears to take place in a post-apocalyptic Pokemon world, where the land is mostly dry and withered, and humans seem to have long disappeared. In fact, the only living thing still around is this lonely old Tangrowth with a unique appearance, which we'll definitely dive into a bit later. But for now, we head into this cave, where suddenly a Pokeball materializes from thin air, like Dr. Stone awakening 3,000 years in the future. And out pops a Ditto. And believe it or not, this is our main character. A Ditto who, after recognizing their missing trainer, decides to copy their appearance and start wandering the desolate world, most likely in search of their trainer. But we instead run into this old Tangrowth, and because we're actually a Pokemon, can actually understand it as it explains that this place was once home to many humans. Perhaps even a town we're familiar with from the old Pokemon world, as the floor tiles certainly look similar. But it may not be Fuchsia City exactly, as many have theorized this might just be Cinnabar Island, post-volcanic eruption. In case you don't know, between Gen 1 and Gen 2, Cinnabar Island, where Blaine's gym was, actually did have its volcano erupt, forcing Blaine to move his gym to the nearby Seafoam Islands, and pretty much everyone that lived on that town to evacuate. Except maybe some of the Pokemon got left behind. There are more than a few red and blue references throughout this trailer, and most of the Pokemon that appear here are from Gen 1, plus it would explain why the land looks so dry and withered. So personally, I actually really like this theory. But despite the trauma, this Tangrowth's dream is to see humans and Pokemon living together once again. So it becomes their job to bring life back into this world, which of course includes more Pokemon. So let's get into that. In order to bring Pokemon back to the island, you'll have to create new habitats for them. And the first step to this is restoring plant life. As the website says, as things get greener, you'll encounter more Pokemon. Because we play as a Ditto, one really cool aspect of Pokopia is you can actually understand other Pokemon, giving the whole game a mystery dungeon vibe I didn't know I missed so much. Seriously, when are they going to make another mystery dungeon? Different Pokemon are attracted to different habitats, and we see quite a few of them in the trailer. The trailer makes it look like some grass has to be present in order for Pokemon to appear, but I don't think that's always the case. As we see with Hitmonchan, a bench and a punching bag seems to be all it needs. But it seems like you will need a specific set of objects in order for it to be considered a habitat. Like here it mentions a fishing rod and a stump by the waterfront, and when all three are placed down, you can see the area sparkles, creating a sort of zone, which then cuts to Magikarp appearing in the water within that zone. Similarly, we can see this squared off area sparkle as the last grass block is placed, which includes this rock that might be the key to making fighting type Pokemon spawn, as we see it with Timber and later Machop. So it may not be grass specifically that's required to make these habitats, as we see Trubbish also pops out from just a trash can, but even then there's that sparkle around the Trubbish, which we actually see with every Pokemon when they first appear. So I wonder if the game will let you know exactly what objects are required for each habitat, or if it's a more loose type of objects, as we've seen quite a large variety of Pokemon will appear. As much as I'm sure Ditto would love to, there doesn't seem to be any catching Pokemon in this game, but there will be a lot of them to befriend. Most of them are from Kanto, of course, seeing as they are the most recognizable, but I've spotted a few representatives from every other generation too. Well, almost all of them. Like I mentioned, most of the Pokemon are Gen 1. I would not be surprised if they're all in the game, especially if it really does take place in Kanto, but from Gen 2, we've got Larvitar and its evolution Tyranitar, Pichu lighting up the darkness, Heracross, Tyrogue, and Mareep, and probably some others. From Gen 3, I've spotted Gardevoir having a tea party, Gulpin and Cacturne just chilling on this bench, Mawile, Makuhita, and Torchic, and the cutest damn Swablu I've ever seen. Gen 4 representatives include Shellos, Combee and its evolution Vespiquen, Happiny and Mime Jr. having a different tea party, Riolu sleeping in the back and its evolution Lucario, alongside a bunch of other evolutions. Which actually brings me to a slight tangent, as I don't believe we ever see two Pokemon of the same species together at the same time on screen, though we do see quite a few evolutions, so it's unclear whether Pokemon will actually be able to evolve in the game. But going back to Gen 5, we did of course see Haxorus in that earlier scene, and a Litwick next to Gardevoir earlier, as well as an old favorite of mine in Chinchino. Next you have Zorua, which reminds me I didn't mention, but all the evolutions appear at some point in the trailers. There's also Trubbish, of course, with Drillbur and Timber seemingly being quite important to the gameplay. From Gen 6, I've only seen Gumi and later its evolution Goodra, and from Gen 7, we've got... But with the game taking place on an island, I'd be surprised if no Alolan Pokemon show up at all. But for now, there really don't seem to be any in the trailers. I actually thought there weren't any Gen 8 Pokemon either, but I did spot a sneaky Dreepy right at the end of the new trailer, and a Rookidee teased in the artwork for the original trailer reveal. Finally, from Gen 9, we've got Pawmi and Tatsugiri also on the promotional art. I just noticed Piplup too. If I happen to miss any, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, there really don't seem to be any Alolan Pokemon spotted yet. But with so many others being available, you might be wondering what you actually do with them. And honestly, I'm still a little bit confused, cause it doesn't seem like you build houses specifically for them like you would for Animal Crossing's villagers. But one thing we know for sure is a lot of these Pokemon seem to directly inspire Ditto. So next let's talk about signature moves. Like his pink amorphous cousin Kirby, in this game Ditto can copy the abilities of certain Pokemon. And so far in the trailer we've seen Squirtle will teach you how to use Water Gun, which lets you water plants and dead grass to restore them back to green. Bulbasaur teaches the move Leafage, allowing you to grow grass, which as we see in the trailer potentially expands the range of certain habitats. Though not confirmed by name, I imagine Charmander teaches you Ember, possibly to burn down wood debris or even turn green grass back to brown. And I mentioned Drillbur being quite important as it likely teaches you Dig, which as you can see is used to till the fields and make planting vegetables possible, like a hoe in Minecraft. Scyther might be my favorite though, as it teaches Ditto the power of El Machete, letting you chop down wood, blocking the way to more areas, and also chop down trees to get wood for crafting. Finally, Hitmonchan teaches you the move Rock Smash, also allowing you to reach new areas. But from the first trailer, it looks like you can actually use Rock Smash to punch any terrain, and they even drop nice little legally distinct blocks you can use to build. But while these abilities only transform part of Ditto, there are a few Pokemon shown that Ditto will fully transform into. And I absolutely love that it keeps the hat. That's an amazing little detail. As Lapras, you can surf the open seas, with the trailer saying you can travel to different islands. We'll get to what that could mean very soon. Similarly, with Dragonite, you can glide between mountains to reach far off places. Couldn't help but notice though, most of these areas that we can travel to look a bit empty, which if this really is a post-volcanic world, does make sense, but what exactly could there be to discover out in this vast, barren world? From far away, the other islands kinda look like an otherworldly ender dimension. But upon closer inspection, I realized they might just still be loading in. You can see that as we get closer, this beach turns into its regular sandy color. But these still loading areas made me wonder if this game could be procedurally generated. In case you don't know, procedural generation is a mechanic games like Minecraft use to create the world randomly as you're exploring it. Doing a little research, I found that Omega Force's previous similar game I mentioned, Dragon Quest Builders 2, doesn't use procedural generation, at least in the main story. But it does randomly generate the smaller Explorer's Shores islands, which are used for gathering infinite resources. And just looking at it, I feel like Pokopia might be doing a similar hybrid approach, with the main island where you start the game being the same for everyone in the beginning. But as you venture outside of it with Lapras or Dragonite, smaller, potentially procedurally generated areas can be explored. I mean, just looking at them, these areas certainly look a lot more plain than the main areas shown, so my theory would be procedural generation, and there's even rumors of Gen 10 potentially using procedural generation, so I would not be surprised if this was Game Freak's sneaky way of learning how to do it from Koei Tecmo. Now, as for the main part of this world, there are a few other things I'm curious about, mainly why there seem to only be Lepa berry trees growing here. I looked through both trailers and only found one other type of tree, growing what look like aspear berries, which makes me think this could be exactly like Animal Crossing, where each island grows a specific type of berry and you have to visit other players' islands to trade for their fruit. On the topic of plants though, I noticed you can only really grow vegetables like tomatoes, carrots, and peas, but it hasn't really been shown what you use them for. I think we see Ditto feeding some berries to another Pokemon. But farming/gardening, at least on the website, is portrayed as a huge part of the game, so I suspect, like many other life simulator games, there will probably be some kind of cooking minigame. And maybe gifting Pokemon certain foods they like will make them work harder or faster, or better, or stronger. Finally, I noticed certain blocks appear to have these sweat drops dripping from them. I mean, I know that's not exactly what it is, but I really don't know how else to describe it. And only certain smashable rocks seem to have it, so my guess is maybe they're guaranteed to have rare materials in them. But then while editing this video, I just noticed some blocks glow, which seems more likely that they'd have rare materials. And speaking of materials, let's talk about what you do with them next. Like many of these types of games, you can craft at a workbench using materials you've collected, which I guess I should have expected, but oftentimes when I'm playing life sims, I wish you could just craft things wherever. And because this is Pokemon, I wonder if maybe you'll unlock a remote version later, cause it can get annoying having to go back whenever you need to craft. But you can see crafting won't just be limited to objects, as you see the player placing down bricks to create a bridge, and later multiple players building a house together. Though this house seems to be a little different than the ones we saw earlier, mainly in that it doesn't have a separate interior you can decorate, so I believe there will actually be two different types of buildings. Ones that you can build yourself with blocks, and another type that are pre-built, but you can decorate the inside of. But I noticed every time we're shown near one of these build sites, Timber is also present, making me think he might be this game's version of Tom Nook. Maybe not exactly extorting you for money, but overseeing the building of these grand houses. Actually, I just noticed there's a bag of bells right in front of this house, so I don't know about this Timber guy. But the main question I have is what, or rather who, we're building these houses for? Because most of the Pokemon are shown just sleeping outside, on piles of hay, or even just on the benches. And the one time we do see Pokemon indoors seems to be for this side quest with Gardevoir's Tea Party, so I don't think it'll be quite like Animal Crossing where each Pokemon requires their own house to stay on the island. But I imagine building these grand houses has to have some kind of benefit other than just getting to decorate them, which I will admit looks really fun. I mean, I love whenever Animal Crossing has Nintendo crossover items like Mario, Metroid, sometimes even Pokemon, so decorating an entirely Pokemon-themed room feels like a dream come true. Perhaps the biggest reason I absolutely fell in love with Animal Crossing was the ability to visit other players' islands, meeting all the characters they befriended, and just having a fun time together. So I'm really happy this game will have multiplayer. And perhaps the best part about it is you can actually use one of the Switch 2's best features that I've yet to try, Game Share. This allows one other player to connect and play inside your world without having to buy their own copy. And it can even be shared to the Switch 1 as well, which is great because the Switch 2 is quite pricey, and I've been waiting for some kind of limited edition or at least different color Joy-Cons to drop before buying one for my wife, so I'm glad she'll at least be able to join in on my island while still on the original Switch. Of course, the player you're sharing with won't be able to make their own island, which probably means I'll have to get her a Switch 2 anyway, but the co-op being so easily available is pretty cool. And as you can see, it can go up to 4 players online, and it looks like there's even some unique minigames like this jump rope challenge with Bulbasaur. Totally reminds me of the minigames in Pokepark, or maybe more accurately Pokemon Stadium with the multiplayer minigames. So I really hope there's more of them. And you've likely noticed there will be, maybe not a lot, but a good amount of character customization too. I actually can't believe I didn't notice during our trailer reaction, but the character here totally has Misty's hairstyle and is striking her pose from the original Red and Blue sprite, which is probably why Tangrowth says this. In the customization menu, we can see there's options for different hairstyle, skin color, and of course, clothing, though it's unclear how we obtain more outfits. But some of the ones they've showed off are really cool. But perhaps the coolest of them all is this outfit that looks exactly like Trainer Blue, aka Gary Oak, and of course the iconic Trainer Red. You guys already know I love customization, so needless to say, I am very excited for Pokopia. Before we wrap things up though, there's one more thing we need to talk about. At the end of the trailer, we get a teaser for what appears to be a new variant of Pikachu, later revealed to be called Pikachu. Described as an unusually pale Pikachu whose fur is a mysterious color and its drooping ears somehow make it seem a little feeble, the trailer definitely makes it look like it would be a ghost-type regional form of Pikachu. However, that may not exactly be the case, as proven by the next Pokemon that appears, Mosslass, aka a Snorlax with moss grown all over and a flower atop its head. The website also says it must have been asleep for a really long time, basically confirming this is just a Dr. Stone version of Pokemon. Perhaps the most obvious sign that these are not regional forms is Smearguru, as it is pretty much just a regular Smeargle with paint on it. I know with a name like that, you might think convergent species, but the final character kinda pops that bubble, as it's just called Professor Tangrowth. As we saw in the trailer, this Tangrowth appears to have been wandering the land for many years, maybe even decades, wondering where all the humans went. And the white part at the top of its vines make me think it's really old, or perhaps it was charred if it really is that Cinnabar volcano erupted. I mean, I could see all of these except Smearguru potentially becoming forms in future games, but I think for now, they'll be exclusive to Pokopia, similar to some of the non-canon Zelda characters introduced in games like Hyrule Warriors, which was also developed by Omega Force. And the website ends by saying, "Such curious new friends, what else is there to discover?" Which means there are probably more unique Pokemon coming. Overall, I'm kinda confused about the role of other Pokemon in this game, and whether it'll be more story-driven like Dragon Quest Builders or more open-ended like Animal Crossing. I'm definitely leaning more towards the latter, since the first trailer heavily emphasizes how there's no rush in this game. It's all about vibes. Though there definitely will be a main story, and for us Pokemon lore nerds, I really hope we do get answers as to what happened to Ditto's trainer and the rest of the humans that used to live on this island. But for now, that is all we know about Pokopia, so let me know if you'll be picking this game up. I think it could make a nice bridge to hold us over between Legends EA and Gen 10 potentially coming at the end of the year, but it might just be a little too different from mainline Pokemon for, more hardcore fans to enjoy. Having grown up with games like My Sims and of course Animal Crossing, I am very excited to check it out, so let me know if you want to see more videos about it. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more breakdowns of all Pokemon games.